People are unjustly being put in prison and having their lives destroyed for choosing a substance that's, you know, somewhere between coffee and beer. As far as I'm concerned, this is not that strong of a substance. I've smoked 5 joints since you and I have been sitting here together. Of the strongest pot in the world. I could keep going for hours. But I could not do that if I drank whiskey or beer or wine.
Greg smokes a lot more pot than the average person, but he does have a point. Government inquiries around the world have spent years of study and millions of dollars and have consistently come to similar conclusions. That the responsible use of marijuana does not pose a significant health risk, that alcohol and cigarettes are far more harmful overall, that criminalizing pot causes more harm than the drug itself, and that decriminalization is recommended. These reports, and there have been over 20, include analysis of medical studies which caution that anything you smoke can harm your lungs. But rather than cancer, bronchitis seems to be the most common risk. And recent studies have found that pot can make types of psychosis like schizophrenia worse for some people, but paradoxically can be used to treat others. For some, the medical benefits far outweigh the risks.
Hey, all you Pot TV fans, how about all our extradition fans? I'm Michelle Rainey, and welcome to Michelle's Rant. I fought for 10 years to be legally allowed to possess and grow marijuana. And finally, I was able to acquire my medical marijuana exemption in Canada a year ago.
Michelle Rainey is one of 1,500 Canadians currently licensed to legally smoke cannabis and grow up to 50 plants for personal medical use under the Canadian government's Compassionate Access Program.
I have Crohn's disease, and I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 17 years old. The explanation of Crohn's is eat some glass and then try and go to the bathroom. The pain is excruciating. Cannabis calms my intestinal tract, so the pain of my diarrhea and my nausea is not as severe as it would normally be.
She's been indicted for assisting Marc Emery in pushing these marijuana seeds to indoor grow operations in the United States.
I am pretty confident that she would not be smoking marijuana in a federal prison in the United States should that happen.
If I go to prison in the U.S., I will die. There's no ands, if, buts, or maybes. I will die.
Sticking to their mantra that pot causes drug addiction and has no medical use, the U.S. government continues to enforce some of the harshest drug laws in the world. But still, how can any person face life for selling marijuana seeds? Well, in the United States, federal sentences for pot are based on the amounts involved. 1 marijuana seed is considered equal to 1 plant. 100 plants equals a prison sentence of 5 to 40 years. 1,000 plants, 10 years to life, all without parole. By that logic, Marc Emery, who is accused by the DEA of sending over 2 million seeds to the U.S., qualifies for a life sentence 2,000 times over.
He kept challenging DEA, challenging U.S. Department of Justice, challenging everything going on there. When you do that, it's inevitable that they're going to come after you. You don't put a stick in Superman's eye.
On the day Emery was arrested, a DEA press release declared that Emery was, in the U.S. government's opinion, one of the top 46 drug traffickers in the entire world, and the only one in Canada.
That is so ridiculous. I mean, imagine, within the world, people are trading in tons of cocaine and heroin. And what's he doing? He's selling seeds.
They said Emery is the biggest organized crime figure in all of Canada, and that I'm bigger than any other gang, including Hell's Angels and Triads. And of course, it's not even an organization. There's nobody but me.
I had to wonder, what really makes Marc Emery such a high priority for the U.S. government? A clue can be found in that press release. DEA head Karen Tandy stated that Emery's arrest is a blow to the marijuana legalization movement and legalization groups active in the United States. In fact, the statement does not discuss Emery's crime, but the nature of Emery's political activities.
I am the decision maker on his arrest, and I can assure you that there was absolutely no political motivation in that.
But if there was proof of political motivation, it would mean Emery's salvation. Under Canada's extradition treaty with the United States, it is illegal to extradite a person in order to punish them for political activities.
The question is, will there be sufficient evidence to convince a court of law that this is a politically inspired extradition request?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars of Emery's illicit profits are known to have been channeled to marijuana legalization groups active in the United States and Canada. Drug legalization lobbyists now have one less pot of money to rely on. This entire statement is a political manifesto. It's an admission that they're after the guy for his political activities and not for his seed selling.
That is clearly a good piece of cogent evidence, but just a piece.
Let me be perfectly clear on why Marc Emery was charged. Violating U.S. laws, targeted because he's a drug trafficker. You know, did he fund the legalization movement? There is evidence to show that, but that's not why he was targeted.
In every war, there has to be a price to pay for our enemies' malfeasance, and that means we have to make them pay.
It's all ideology. It's just the United States can't stand the movement that I front, and they're trying to do everything they can to take that one person down.
The one thing that I am certain about, beyond a shred of a doubt, that Marc was targeted because he's a political activist. On the political side, Canada and the United States are like best friends forever. So if we changed our law, it'd be very hard for them to support their laws. And they had to send a chill.
Marijuana does not embarrass.
So they had to step in and basically silence the most vocal activist in Canada, and the only activist, this is what's important, the only activist who was an entrepreneur, who could make money. There's no benefactors in Canada other than Marc. People relied upon Marc.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one in the United States, the problem of dangerous drugs.
In the pot-fueled hippie and anti-Vietnam War era of the 70s, Nixon declared war on drugs and set up the Drug Enforcement Administration. In an attempt to cut off the supply of drugs coming into America, the DEA went after producers around the world, extraditing those arrested to the United States to be tried and punished under American law. But by any measure, the strategy has not been successful. Marijuana is freely available in the U.S., and the rate of marijuana use among Americans is now roughly double what it is in Holland, where pot is decriminalized.
The United States has spent, some say, perhaps as much as $1 trillion US dollars fighting its war on drugs.
In Ottawa, Eugene Oscapella, a lawyer and criminology professor, runs a small, independently funded drug policy watchdog group.
The United States now incarcerates 1/4 of all the human beings imprisoned on Earth. Punishment doesn't work. Just look south of the border. All you gotta do is look south, and you're gonna see a colossal failure of the prohibitionist model.
While the U.S. government continues to play hardball, and Emery's case is a clear example of that, many other countries are backing off, especially where pot is concerned. Here in Canada, public support for the decriminalization of marijuana has been polled as high as 69%.
This is the largest global marijuana march in the world today with 250 cities. We've got possibly 20,000 people here today. We smoke pot! We smoke pot! We smoke pot!
To some extent, this trend has been stoked by Emery's relentless campaigns.